Right, in this presentation we're going to take a look at how to actually install Windows 7. Now if you've gone to DreamSpark and downloaded the ISO image, we need to make a modification to your environment for the time being. So fire up Virtual Player, you're going to select Windows 7 and we need to edit the virtual machine settings. And what we're going to do is we're going to navigate to our CD DVD option, and instead of utilizing the actual physical drive, we're going to go and find where our ISO image is and connect that up. Alright, the location of my ISO image is going to be different than yours, but that's okay. We're going to click on OK then, and now when we basically fire up Windows 7 now, it should basically fire up and start the installation process. What we're going to do is look at the different setup screens during the wizard and look at the different options that we have during the initial installation. If this shows up for the VMware tools, select Remind Me Later, as we don't need to install that now until our operating system is done installing. Alright, so let's go through the installation wizard settings and take a look at some of the options. So as you can see, we have our pre-configuration screen of what language we want to install, what's the currency and format, and the keyboard method. There's really nothing to modify, change here, so we'll click on Next. And as of right now, we'll just click on the Install Now button and let the installation wizard take its place. Okay, as you can see here, I do have an error because I didn't select enough RAM. So we need to increase our memory to 512 megabytes for this installation to work properly. So we'll just click on OK. We'll actually cancel out of this installation. And we need to actually shut down the VM player to actually increase our memory. We'll go back to Windows. We'll go back to Edit Virtual Machine Settings. And then I'll bump that up to the recommended amount of 512. Click OK, and then we'll go back through the installation process one more time. Alright, so we're back at our installation. We'll just click on Next, and then go ahead and install Windows Now. We're going to accept the licensing terms, click on Next, and for this installation type we're going to click on the Custom Advanced because we want to install a new copy of Windows. Now, when you take a look at this, you notice that it has addressed that we have a 20 gigabyte hard drive. And this is very important. If you click on Next, by default, it's going to utilize all the disk space that you have allocated over here. We don't want to do that. We need to format it in a different configuration and have different partitions. So we need to select this option, Drive Options. Notice the menu has changed, and then we're going to click on New. You notice by default it wants to utilize the entire partition size. What we're going to do is change this to be 15 gigabytes large. We'll click on Apply. And click OK here. Now you notice what the system has done. It actually created two partitions for us. One is a system reserve partition that's only 100 megabyte. And then our partition that we just created that was basically 15 gigs. Now you notice that we still have unallocated space. Don't worry about this for now. We're going to be manipulating this space once we get the operating system up and running and utilizing disk management. So after this is done, we're going to click on Next. Now what the system is going to do is it's going to install the files, but if you recall, the actual process is we need to create the partitions, and then after we create the partitions, we need to perform a format. And behind the scenes, Windows is performing that particular format. So this is going to take a couple minutes for it to go through, and once it's done, there's going to be a couple more questions that the system is going to prompt us, and we'll pick up when the screens pop up. Alright, notice the system had it finished installing. Now the system is going to restart. As the system is rebooting, it's finishing up its installation and setting up these services. And then the system is going to reboot one more time. Once the system reboots, it's going to perform a little bit more configuration settings, and once that is done, we should have a logon screen pop up. A couple tips in terms of finishing up the installation here. It really depends on how the system is being utilized, meaning if it's going to be a business environment or a home environment. Generally speaking, when we have a business environment, there's going to be a specific way user account names are created. For the home environment, it really doesn't matter too much. Now, same thing with the computer name. There might be some specific configurations that you have in the business environment to identify the workstation. So over here, for the time being, I'm going to create a username called Jerry. You notice by default, it's also prefixing the username to here. Now, another thing that I don't do in the business environment is if it's a small environment, I don't personalize the computer to the user, because users may change positions and users may leave the company, so I don't want to personalize that. So for this, I'm just going to keep this a little bit simple and say this is basically Win PC1. Click on next. The system is asking for a password. If we don't put a password on and click on next, it will let us go through. Do not put a password on, because I want to kind of show you some things that happen if there is no password. Now this, you should have basically a key from on the hub. So enter your product key, adjust your system time. And this setup, what we're going to do is we're going to select a home network, and you're pretty much done with the setup. And once we're logged in, then you're able to go back down here and install the actual tools, and this will basically help you switch between the virtual PC and your actual desktop. So when you get a chance, go ahead and install this.